Shocking truth. Mark Carney's tax cut is a huge insult to every Canadian family. Mark Carney's ascension to the role of Prime Minister came with a wave of optimism among many Canadians, particularly those in the middle class burdened by escalating living expenses. His campaign promises included a middle-class tax cut aimed at providing tangible relief to families across the country. The promise was clear and ambitious: save Canadian families up to $825 per year. This pledge raised hopes that Carney's leadership would bring about a new era of economic fairness and fiscal relief. However, as the government's tax plan has unfolded and independent analyses have emerged, it's become painfully evident that the reality is far from the promise. The average Canadian family is now expected to save only around $280 next year, an amount that hardly addresses the soaring costs affecting households nationwide. The government's tax plan targets the first $57,375 of taxable income by reducing the federal tax rate incrementally. It aims to lower the tax rate from 15% to 14.5% this year, and then to 14% the following year. While these reductions seem modest but positive, the effect on the average taxpayer's wallet is far less impressive. The Parliamentary Budget Officer's calculations reveal that while some families might benefit noticeably, the vast majority will only experience marginal savings, roughly $90 in 2025, rising to about $190 the year after. More troubling, the relief for single seniors and single-parent families, those often most financially vulnerable, is minimal, sometimes as low as $50 to $140 annually. This disparity has drawn sharp criticism and frustration from many Canadians who feel ignored by the government's priorities. Conservative leader Andrew Scheer has been vocal in pointing out this disconnect between Carney's campaign rhetoric and the actual impact of his policies. Scheer argues that the Liberals' tax cut is little more than a superficial adjustment that fails to address the mounting financial pressures faced by ordinary Canadians. The official opposition has described the plan as a tinkering on the margins, providing only trivial relief to those who need it most. This criticism strikes a chord with families who feel the economic challenges of today, such as inflation, housing affordability, and rising utility costs, remain largely unaddressed. Delving deeper into the numbers, it's clear that the tax cut's benefits are unevenly distributed. Two-income families in middle-income brackets, particularly those with children, stand to gain the most, potentially up to $750 annually. Meanwhile, single-parent households and seniors, many living on fixed or limited incomes, receive far less. This imbalance raises questions about fairness and the government's commitment to supporting those who face the greatest financial difficulties. Critics argue that the policy inadvertently exacerbates inequality by favoring families already better positioned to benefit from tax relief. Throughout the growing debate, Finance Minister François-Philippe Champagne has maintained a notably low profile, choosing not to engage extensively with the rising criticism. This silence contrasts sharply with the more aggressive tax cut proposals put forth by Conservatives during the 2025 snap federal election campaign. The Conservative plan called for a 2.25 percentage point reduction phased in over 4 years, a measure promising more substantial relief across a wider spectrum of Canadians. This divergence has fueled ongoing debates about fiscal responsibility and priorities in Canadian politics. Carney himself has attempted to frame the tax cut's success in broader economic terms. He suggested that the policy's true impact would be seen in the cost of everyday essentials, such as groceries and household bills. However, this framing only highlights the policy's shortcomings. While families might save a few $100s annually on taxes, inflation is pushing grocery bills and basic living expenses upward by thousands of dollars each year. The gap between savings and rising costs leaves many Canadians feeling that the tax cut offers symbolic rather than substantial support. This situation is compounded by the reality many Canadians face regarding wages and income growth. Across many sectors, workers have received stagnant pay or minimal raises, sometimes as low as 0.3% annually, which barely keep pace with inflation. When combined with a tax cut that averages out to roughly $5 per month for many families, the overall relief seems almost negligible. For households balancing mortgage payments, heating bills, childcare, and other essential costs, these modest savings do little to ease financial stress. Beyond the immediate numbers, this tax cut controversy has broader implications for public confidence in the Carney government's economic stewardship. The struggle to deliver meaningful relief on such a fundamental issue as middle-class taxes has raised questions about the government's competence in managing larger, more complex policy initiatives. Ambitious programs described as projects of national interest are on the horizon, but if this administration cannot succeed on relatively straightforward fiscal measures, many Canadians doubt their ability to effectively lead on the bigger challenges. The frustration around the tax cut reflects a deeper disconnect between political messaging and the realities faced by ordinary Canadians. The grand promises of campaign speeches appear distant from the actual impact in households struggling to cope with rising costs. For many voters, this gap intensifies skepticism and cynicism about the government's willingness and ability to deliver on its commitments. Carney's government now faces mounting pressure to demonstrate it understands and can respond to the economic challenges confronting Canadians. Housing affordability, healthcare access, climate change, and infrastructure development are pressing priorities, demanding genuine solutions. The tax cut's failure to deliver significant relief casts a shadow over the government's broader agenda and threatens to erode trust at a critical juncture. As Canada moves deeper into the election cycle, the tax cut will remain a central point of political contention. Mark Carney and his Liberal team will need to address these criticisms head-on and work to rebuild the confidence of middle-class families. Without meaningful policy adjustments and transparent communication, they risk alienating voters who feel increasingly disconnected from Ottawa's promises. In the end, the tax cut debate underscores a fundamental tension in Canadian politics today: the divide between promises made and realities delivered. For many Canadians, the current tax cut is not the relief they expected. It is a political insult that fails to address the financial pressures weighing on families. Moving forward, Carney's government must demonstrate that it can transform intentions into effective policies that genuinely improve the lives of Canadians across the country.